you were just mentioning how excited you are for the playoffs. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of parity. It feels like the Patriots aren't as good as they once were. So let's think about it this way. You got to take one quarterback that's in the playoffs. You got to roll with that guy. Who are you riding with? Bruce, I'm going to let you start as the former quarterback.
I'm starting it.
As the former quarterback.
You know, this is tough. I mean, that's why I am so excited for the playoffs, because you look at like the Saints, if they're home field advantage through the playoffs, Drew Brees is going to be hard to beat. But then I look at, man, honestly, where I'm at, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes. I mean, was that your guy? You a little disappointed?
It's all right. It's all right. See the color of his shirt?
I'll pivot.
I know. Well, and the reason I say that, though, is just because, I mean, I'd say it's a gut feeling, but it's not hard to have a gut with taking Patrick Mahomes. But his big-time throws, it's insane to me. So he's 29 big-time throws, and you got Brees only at 8. You know, and I just take the dynamic playmaking ability that he has to buy time in the pocket, escape outside the pocket, and just make those plays downfield. And I feel like that offense is rolling, and I trust him because you're going to get in a playoff game. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be tight. It's going to be you're not moving the ball, or it's going to be, you know, back and forth, back and forth. I just trust him to make the necessary plays when he has to. And I trust that, you know, I go back and forth between him and Russell Wilson, to be honest with you.
Let me ask you this, because you mentioned Russell Wilson. Are you taking Patrick Mahomes regardless of the offense he's on, or is this you saying you really want to back the Chiefs' offense? Because that's the question that I think, if you had to pull Pat Mahomes off that team and you got randomly selected a coach, you know, are you still taking him?
Oh, yes. But now if you're telling me you have one quarterback, I don't care what system, it's probably Russell Wilson.
Okay.
You know, because that guy, I think, just makes your whole team better.
Well, that would have been my answer, just because you look at what wins in the playoffs, right? And it's you know, what gets you in the playoffs is limiting negatively graded throws, being efficient, play for play, consistently over the course of a season. The unstable things are how often you can produce, you know, big time throws and positively graded throws. But once you get in the playoffs, I think you need to string together a lot of positive variance. And the hardest way to do that is from Drew Brees, right? I mean, he's the best quarterback in the NFL limiting negatively graded throws, but he also doesn't have as many positives as some of those other quarterbacks. Wilson gives you that, you know, Patrick Mahomes gives you that, and you can string a lot of those together and get positive variance. Now you're going to get knocked out too, your fair share of times, but to win consecutive games in the playoffs, I think you need positive play. And so for me, it's the league MVP and Russell Wilson.
Okay, so you're not taking Mahomes, you're taking Russell Wilson. Okay, despite the shirt color.
Mm-hmm. But did you do that? Are you trying to steer a different way? Because
I think they're both
with Wilson and Mahomes. Man, Wilson is so good.
Yeah, I mean they're all. I mean, we're picking among the best here, right? So you're sort of looking at styles make fights here, as opposed to like who's actually good and who's not.
But do you think Wilson and Mahomes, and I mean for everyone, are they far and ahead above? Because I mean I didn't hear you guys, but.
Well, I'm curious who Mike is going to.
To me, it's a no-brainer. If in the win conditions, you need a big arm. Josh Allen's the guy I'm kidding. No, Patrick Mahomes. To me, I really do think there is something too. If Drew Brees has to go on the road, if he has to go on the road to Lambeau, you know, in January, I just don't see him being able to push the ball down the football field. Patrick Mahomes, we saw it this past weekend. It's about the worst conditions you could have played in, the worst conditions he could find in the playoffs. Threw for over 300 yards in the snow. I mean, I think that actually does matter come January, having that arm in the playoffs. So I do think that Patrick Mahomes, because of that, and because of obviously, you know, all the other things that he does exceptionally well, is the guy I'd take.
I was expecting a little more variance.
Really?
It's Patrick Mahomes for me as well.
Wow.
And I don't think it's particularly close. And the reason that I don't think it's particularly close is that when it comes to having to make not just the throws that are designed, but the throws that are outside of structure.
Right.
While Russell Wilson, I think, makes the throws inside of structure better and can do the rollouts and stuff like that, I actually think Mahomes is at a different level than Russell Wilson is in terms of being able to extend the play and make those throws. And it's tough for me to separate the two because of the system. Andy Reid's such a better coach than anything that Russell Wilson has had. So if we're in agreement that those are the top two, there's some guys that we've left off this list that have some pretty big names.
Like Duck Hodges.
Exactly. The guy who's going to be the MVP this year is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got Aaron Rodgers. Ever heard of him? Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Thoughts?
It's experience.
Well, I think for all those guys, though, you're looking at, I mean, the guys that we picked, Mahomes and Wilson, I think are being slept on more than anybody, right? In terms of, the Chiefs are sneaking up on the whole AFC right now. Mahomes is sort of, getting hot at the right time. Wilson has always sort of been under the radar. When we've, put out the idea that he was the MVP, we got a lot of backlash. Whereas, Lamar Jackson, like, they're emptying the tank right now. And, they're doing a lot of great things, but they're, they've beaten some good teams, but when it comes playoff time, the book might already be out on some of these guys. Same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. Same thing with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, like where, scheme is really carrying him. And I think that's where I'm at with those guys. They're great, right? But like, I still think that there's a little bit more upside in picking the Mahomes and the Wilsons of the world than sort of these, I wouldn't say more known commodities, but commodities that I think we've already seen a lot of their best so far this year.
I mean, I'm really going to be cheering on Tom Brady because of the fact I'm so interested to see if they can do it again. I mean, I don't want to say it'll blow my mind, but what we're seeing right now, it will. It will blow my mind if this offense can start figuring something out. But it's just so hard to...
Let me ask you this. And we talked about Mahomes and Brees having these great games last week, right? So I think there's a little bit of Brees still got something in the tank. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Drew Brees has a much better environment right now than Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah.
If I took Tom Brady and I put him on the New Orleans Saints, how good would they be? Better? Same? Worse?
I think they'd be the same. I mean, I think they'd be the same.
I think they'd be worse, to be honest. I do think Brees is playing at a different level than Brady at this year. I do think a lot of Brady's struggles have been on him. Under pressure, he looks like a different quarterback.
Right.
He looks like he's definitely avoiding getting hurt during the regular season as compared to past years. And I think that's not going to... Now, obviously, as a better offensive line in New Orleans would have that, but it's still something that I do think is on him.
Well, we know that pressure is less of something that happens to a quarterback than we think, right? It's something that's induced by the quarterback. And so Brees, I think better than anybody in the entire NFL, avoids pressure.
Yeah.
And that's a huge deal as well. The concern I have with Brees is that the style that offense plays requires them to be perfect, right? Michael Thomas catches every single target that's thrown to him the other night, and that's how they hum. But if they have an off day, whether it be accuracy or a team schemes something up that they're not ready for, that team is not a big play team. Alvin Kamara is not getting the chunk plays he was getting when he was younger. Michael Thomas is not a down the field receiver. The one guy that they have that can produce big plays consistently is Jared Cook, and he's been the model of inconsistency this year. So that, to me, that's where in the playoffs where oftentimes you need to put teams away. That's where I'm concerned about with the Saints, and that we saw it against the 49ers. They had a 2-touchdown lead, and they were unable to do so, because of their defense, but also, needing to sort of be perfect offensively to keep up.
Okay, let's take one out of this group here. We've got some grizzled veterans and an MVP. Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. You got to pick one of those guys. Mike, who you got?
I'm probably going to go Lamar Jackson just because that presents so many problems for teams, and especially when it's just you have 1 week to prepare. They're probably going to get a bye, so you get 1 week to prepare for him. I do think it's just difficult to simulate what he brings to the table. And it's just it's a high floor sort of week to week sort of quarterback.
No, you're right. And they're hard to prepare for, like you said. I mean, that's a good one. I thought about that. I might have taken him, but I think Drew Brees. I mean, we just watch what he's doing, and he just, the time and commitment he has put in to perfect his craft, and just his story alone, going through that shoulder injury, coming out of San Diego, it's just remarkable. And so to me, I love going with the guy with the will. And we're talking about these quarterbacks now with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. They have what you need inside, not just the physical abilities. And with Drew Brees, he truly has it inside him. And that's where, I mean, man, I just think the Saints in this, I mean, I think he's going to have a good run through these playoffs.
Yeah, I think some of the calculus changes if the Packers were to be able to get a top seed, right? Because Aaron Rodgers is somebody who is not doing it consistently anymore. He's not a elite quarterback by any stretch anymore. But that being said, he's capable of putting a game or two together where he looks like the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think that if you put Brees, if you put Garoppolo, you put those other quarterbacks on the road in the playoffs against Aaron Rodgers, he could do that. But for my money, I have to take Brees as well because I do think that they secure the 1 seed.
We're together.
You guys are in
Mahomes
Brees.
And I think they get the 1 seed, and I think it'll be tough for them to be beat in the playoffs.
Yeah, agnostic of where they're playing, I don't think you can argue with Lamar Jackson and the way that you can leverage him to create an offense that is really just tough to slow down right from the start of the game. And I think that's so big in the playoffs especially. You can force a team to play from behind, right? And you can play from ahead, which the Ravens have done all year. But I would still take Tom Brady. And the reason I would take Tom Brady is that for my money, he is the best at preparing and beating you with his mind. Now, I'm not taking the Patriots. I'm taking Tom Brady. And I truly believe that if you put him on, say, the Saints, right, that we have a totally different narrative of what he could do right now. Still some guys we haven't mentioned.
Hold on. So you think if you put Brady on the Saints, are they better, worse, or the same? They're better?
They're better.
That's interesting.
I think you get something I think you get somewhere in between the 2015 Broncos and the 2019 Saints. You're not certainly Brady's not where Manning was at the time, but I do think he has deteriorated a little bit physically.
It's tough for me to say because they are bereft of. We could be the 4 receivers out there and a couple of snaps for the Patriots. And there's one guy that we haven't even mentioned, Deshaun Watson, who I do not want to face. Yeah. Right? If I'm any fan base, I don't want to see Deshaun Watson come in with those 3 receivers, especially.
He's another boomer bust guy. Yeah. His lows are terrible. His highs are about as good as anybody else's, especially with that receiving corp. You have Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, and Kenny Stills all healthy, and those 2 tight ends are playing well, plus the 2 running backs they have been good out of the backfield. It's a very good offense.
I mean, he has those 3 guys, and Brady's rolling out with us 4. It's not even close.
Yep.
It'll be fun to watch.
And that's what 28 big-time throws this year. But like you said, what concerns me is the 20 turnover-worthy plays. I mean, that's where, to me, you don't know what Deshaun Watson is showing up. And that's what scares me. But at the same time, for how athletic he is and the ability to make plays is pretty special.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.